All right, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. So hello and welcome to our webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you can hear me on your end. Um, I'm delighted to have you join us. It's great to be able to talk to you a little bit about what is bioethics and medical humanities, and ultimately why study bioethics and medical humanities. So I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I am Dr. Leah Jeunnette. I am the director of our Master's in Bioethics and Medical Humanities program. I'm also the Assistant Director of Education for Bioethics and Medical Humanities and a Senior Research Associate in our department. I'm also a clinical ethicist by training at University Hospital's Cleveland Medical Center. So I periodically take call at the hospital and help with patient cases. I think something else that's really important to know about my background is I'm also an alum of our master's program. So I graduated from our program a number of years ago and then went on to study bioethics, and specifically healthcare ethics and clinical ethics, specifically for my PhD, and had the privilege of coming back to Cleveland and Case Western Reserve in particular. And I have been here for almost 7 years now. So love being back and love being the director of our master's program. So just to cover the agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about Case Western Reserve and the School of Medicine, just to kind of help better understand where we're positioned at the university. We'll talk in general about bioethics and medical humanities, give you a program overview for our master's program, talk about student assistantships and financial aid, the application process and deadlines, and then we'll cover Q&A. So speaking of Q&A, we have a great feature here on Zoom. It's the Q&A format. So you are able to submit questions as we go. I will kind of keep an eye on the questions, and if I can answer them as I'm presenting, I will go ahead and do that. If not, I will save them for the end and go through some of those questions as well. We've also had some pre-submitted questions, and so I will bring those up at the end of the presentation. All right, so let's dive in. So just a little bit about us. Case Western Reserve, as a university, we are located in Cleveland, Ohio. We have several different schools here. We are located within the School of Medicine. We are privileged to be ranked #1 in Ohio and number 24 in the US. And we are known for our medical research, our medical education. I think what's fantastic about the Department of Bioethics in particular is that while we are positioned in the School of Medicine, it's a very strong school, we collaborate with schools across the university. So School of Law, the Mandel Social Science School, College of Arts and Science, engineering. We do a lot of collaborations with them. And we also collaborate with our local healthcare institutions, our hospital systems, which we'll actually talk about in a little bit. So it positions us well to really approach medicine, research, and ultimately bioethics and medical humanities from a very interdisciplinary and interprofessional perspective. And you can see in just a little bit how that can be extremely valuable to the field. So one of the big questions that comes up is, why study bioethics and medical humanities? Why focus on this topic in particular out of all the different topics you can focus in that provide, additional knowledge to the field of healthcare? And as we know, the healthcare industry, the healthcare field impacts all of us, whether it's from a personal standpoint, so whether it's you as a patient or your loved one, or whether it's a profession. Here in Cleveland, healthcare is one of the main drivers of our economy because we have so many hospital systems. And so we see it impacting our region in a very significant way. We hear about it impacting us nationally here in the United States, and of course, internationally, as we've all experienced over the past several years with the pandemic. The other reason that why we study bioethics and medical humanities is because there are constant advancements in science and technology. And this ultimately is going to lead us to big questions, big considerations, and these things have ethical concerns. So some of these questions include, should we intervene? What kinds of values should inform policy and practice? Can we and should we ensure justice and respect for persons in research and clinical practice? Another question that comes to mind is, who is informing the policy and practice? Who is ensuring justice or respect for persons? Who do we have at the table? And sometimes an even more important question is, who is not at the table? I think those are really valuable questions that we have to consider as we consider healthcare from many different angles. And that is something significant that bioethics and medical humanities brings to the table. So how does this field assist in a career path? So as I mentioned, bioethics and medical humanities is interprofessional, it's multidisciplinary, it's interdisciplinary in both its origin and in its current practice. And so you will see people from all different educational backgrounds coming to bioethics and medical humanities with all different levels of expertise, areas of expertise, and it makes for such an interdisciplinary, interprofessional discussion and ultimately solutions too. What this also means is in our classroom settings, in our master's program, it really allows students to see the variety of places that students can go with their careers. So we ultimately see students go on to clinical professions, legal professions, regulatory work, arts and humanities. Maybe they actually go into bioethics or other academic fields. And one of the really unique features of our master's program is the discernment for the undecided. We have a number of students every year that come to our program and say, I know I'm interested in healthcare, or I know I'm interested in the law and health intersection point, or I know I'm interested in health and humanities, but I don't know what that career path looks like. I don't know where I'm going next. And this program allows you the space, it allows you the opportunity to ask those questions and to consider career paths as you make decisions and as you progress through the program, which it's just a fantastic way to really work through that discernment. So one of the things I like to think about is we have students coming from all different undergrad backgrounds. We even have professional students coming through a career change. But as you can see, just in a short list of undergrad backgrounds that our students come from, anything from pre-med to pre-law to students with expertise in different languages, international studies, neuroscience, philosophy, urban health, such a wide variety of backgrounds that our students come to bioethics with. And then while they're here in the program, they really get to focus on bioethics and medical humanities. They really get to dive into this. And then we launch them into the next phase of their career path, whether that's moving towards becoming a physician, a lawyer, a researcher. Maybe it's becoming a psychologist or a sociologist. Maybe it's moving into research and focusing as a research scientist or a research coordinator or some type of case manager in the community. There are so many directions that our students go that it's amazing to see the paths that they take. So a little bit more about our master's program in a little more detail. So we are celebrating our 28th year this fall. We're really excited by that. We are one of the oldest master's programs in the United States. Full-time, our students will take the program in 1 year. It's 2 semesters typically, and the majority of our students do complete it in that time frame by and large. We do also have part-time options available. We do have a customized curriculum for 30 credits. So within that master's program, students are going to complete 30 credits. 13 and a half of those are pure electives. So you get to craft the schedule that makes the most sense for your career path. So if you're leaning more towards a medical anthropology or a medical history career path, take courses that make sense for that. Versus students who really want to go into health policy or law, take courses that really are going to propel you in that direction. One of our really unique opportunities for students is our short-term study abroad immersion courses. So these are part of our elective options. They are 3 credits. They are opportunities for students to go to the Netherlands, Spain. We've had courses to Paris. We've even done courses within the United States to US national parks. And these courses are designed to be done as an intensive over spring break or in May over a week or 2. And you really get to dive into a bioethics topic, but also do a cultural comparison at the same time, because you are in that country or in that park for that given week or 2 weeks. We have personalized advising for each student. So we really focus on what a student comes to the program with, what career trajectory they're looking at, and then we match you with an advisor that makes the most sense. So if you're really interested in the ethical issues of genetics and genomics, we're going to match you with a faculty that's interested in that. Versus if you're a student who really wants to get into health policy, we're going to match you with a faculty that makes the most sense for that. And then lastly, we have dual degree options. So we have options such as MD, MA. So students, as they're working through the medical school MD program, they can also do our master's program. We have a JD, MA dual degree. We also have dual degree with the Master's of Public Health, the Master's of Social Work, and the Master's in Genetic Counseling. So there's a wide variety of options. The one thing to know is that students must apply and be accepted to each dual degree program separately. So the application and the decisions are made independently of each other. So as I mentioned, we have 30 credits for our program. I'd like to, just briefly cover how does our program really structure itself. So we have what we call our traditional path for students. And then we have 3 concentrations: our medicine, society, and culture, policy or health policy, and research. And so these concentrations are optional. If you don't choose a concentration, you're just defaulted into the traditional program. But all students take our Foundations in Bioethics and Medical Humanities 1 and 2 course. That's kind of our core course that all students take, a great way to dive into the fundamental topics that you need to know. All students take 1 semester of clinical ethics rotations. We'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. And all students will complete a capstone paper where they get to dive into a topic of their choice and work with a faculty on that research project and really thinking about the literature and how to flesh out that argument that they're making. From there, you can see that there's a variety of structures, elective options, ways that students can structure the requirements of the concentration versus the electives. And so it's a pretty straightforward plan for students. And this is where the personalized advising comes in handy. Because when you talk to your advisor, they can really sit down with you and think about, okay, what are your areas of interest? What electives are you considering? Maybe they'll steer you towards a concentration, or maybe they say, based on what you want to take, the traditional program makes the most sense. And they can ensure that you're meeting your credit requirements and all the different needs that you might have while you're in the program. So as I mentioned, one of our big features of our program is clinical ethics rotations. I would say this is one of the biggest highlights that we have, and it's a big draw for students, and it's a big highlight that students have while they're in the program, and they report to us that they loved it after they've gone on. So this is an opportunity for students to spend 160 hours inside teaching hospitals here in Cleveland. So Cleveland has 4 different teaching hospitals. We have 2 public hospitals, either Metro Health or the Cleveland VA Hospital. And then we have 2 private hospitals, University Hospitals and Cleveland Clinic. The goal is that in the fall, you're in one of those hospitals, either public or private, and then the other semester you would be in the opposite, so either public or private, depending on what you did in the fall. So fall and spring in total, you would get 160 hours of clinical time. And that's done in a variety of ways, through morning rounds with ICU teams, general floors, interdisciplinary team meetings. You might even be rotating with consult teams. So it could be anywhere from medical or pediatric teams to psychiatry teams to neuro teams, transplant teams. There's a lot of variety there. Students also attend a variety of committee meetings. So ethics committee, institutional review boards, rehab, animal research, transplant committee meetings, policy meetings. There's such a variety that students can attend. And then lastly, going one-on-one with healthcare professionals. So you're going to visit patients and possibly go to meetings, and you are one-on-one with these healthcare professionals as they understand ethics. That could be a physician, a nurse, social worker, a chaplain, a genetic counselor. There's such a wide variety of opportunities. And the goal during these rotations is really to consider all of the different angles and perspectives that ethics brings to the table for these different cases. On a weekly basis, you meet with your fellow students that are at the same hospital as you are, and also meet with a clinical ethicist or an ethics committee member to digest the cases you have seen during your time in the program. So these are a wonderful opportunity for students as part of our program. Really unique, and the fact that it's 160 hours is highly unusual. Most programs don't have quite as many hours. So that's kind of just an overview highlight of our master's program. To get into the application process, we require materials for a completed application. So transcripts from all undergrad and grad programs, personal essay, which what we're looking for is what is your interest in bioethics and medical humanities, and how does that impact your career path? We ask for a CV or a resume, and then 2 letters of recommendation, including 1 from a faculty member. Once we have your completed application, it's reviewed by our admissions committee member, and then you would also have an interview with someone from our admissions committee. What's great is we do rolling admissions. And so typically once we have that completed application package, we can render a decision within 2 to 3 weeks. We're very proud of that pace, and that we pay attention to that timeline. In terms of financial aid, we have a great program called Student Assistantships. This is an opportunity for students to get involved in either teaching, research, or administration. These are highly competitive, and so we only have a limited number of slots. So students typically do anywhere from 5 to 10 hours of work per week, and in exchange, you receive a partial tuition waiver. So it's a great opportunity for students to get involved through that process. And then we also have a great financial aid office here at Case Western Reserve. Students can apply for traditional financial aid by filling out FAFSA, and all the traditional financial aid options are available. And then if you're interested in learning more about the actual tuition, Grad Studies is going to be your resource for that. In terms of timeline, so we are currently taking master's applications for fall 2024. Our priority 1 due date is December 1st. What we guarantee is if you have a completed application by December 1st, we will render a decision before the end of the year. But we do need it to be a complete application package. For IGS students, your deadline is March 1st. That program is currently on pause for taking applications. We're hoping to get that up and running within the next month or so. That's for current case students who are juniors. If you have more questions about IGS, please reach out to me, and I'm happy to set up a one-on-one meeting, and we can talk about the current status and updates related to the Integrated Graduate Studies program. For students who are interested in applying for our student assistantships, that is going to be due on June 1st. In order to be eligible for that, you actually need to submit your master's application by May 15th. And then ultimately, our final application deadline is August 1st if you plan to join us in fall semester. And classes would start on August 26th of 2024. That seems like such a long time from now, but time will go quickly. So I wanted to open it up for questions. So I want to remind you, you can submit through the Q&A feature. I see that we have at least 1 question, so I'm going to take a look. Okay, there's a great question. On the research track, how many students publish in academic journals? So that's a great question. So I would say, any number of year, we probably have around 5 students who are in the research ethics concentration. Not all of them place a priority on publication, but those that do are typically successful in getting a publication. Um, we also have students who are not doing the research concentration or the research track, and instead they're more focused on just joining a research project in the department. They're joining a grant, they're joining a study, and working with a faculty member, and that's another way for them to get published in an academic journal. So it's definitely a possibility for students. We have a number of students every year that are published if that's a priority. And what I always recommend to students is, if you know that that's a priority for you, make sure that it's known with the faculty you're working with that you are looking to publish, you're looking to write, you're looking to get involved in that, because the only way that we know to plug you in is by making that known. So great question. Thank you so much. Other questions I'm looking for. I know we had a pre-submitted question of what makes our program unique, what helps us stand out. A couple of things I would say. One is definitely our clinical ethics rotations. Those 160 hours are highly unusual in the best sense. So we really have the opportunity to craft a unique opportunity for students to be in these clinical settings with medical teams and a variety of allied health professionals throughout the hospital system. And not just at the same hospital for all 160 hours, but a variety of hospitals. And we really pair you with the hospital that makes the most sense. In addition, we have our study abroad courses, as I mentioned, but we also have opportunities for students to get involved in research, in teaching. And so what I heard one of our faculty describe it like this. You might have a master's program that excels in one of these areas. They may excel in study abroad, or they may excel in research, or they may excel in clinical. One of the advantages of our program, because we've been around for 28 years, is we've had the time to dedicate to do each one of these things well. And over time, we've slowly added and improved our program. And so because of that, we allow students to be involved in all these different opportunities, some of them built into the program, some of them are optional for students. And so I think that really helps our program stand out and be unique. Oh, this is a great question. What bioethics, medical humanities related guest speakers, conferences, or other learning opportunities are available outside of the core curriculum? Fantastic question. So this is actually a high priority for us. We make sure that students are getting involved in those exact opportunities. So we bring in guest speakers to either speak with our students directly, or it's something that they speak to our whole department. Just this upcoming fall alone, we as a department are part of a book launch for someone not specifically related to our department, but as a friend of the department. So we're very fortunate to help launch his book. Later in the fall, we're going to be launching a new center for clinical ethics. It's going to be a joint partnership between Case and University Hospitals. So we'll have that event, and we'll have some guest speakers related to that. We encourage our students to get involved in conferences. Actually, later this week, we have the American Society for Bioethics and Humanities conference. We are sponsoring a number of our students to go to this conference. And for some students, this is their first time going to a conference, and we're really excited for them. There's a conference typically in the spring called the Health Humanities Consortium. And because of the timing of that conference in the spring, students can actually submit proposals to that conference in the fall. And we've had a number of students been able to present at that conference in the springtime. And then additional learning opportunities are available all across, not just our department or the School of Medicine, but across campus. Within the School of Medicine, we have a number of initiatives for students. Some are for students who are specifically pre-med. So if you're looking to apply to medical school, they will put on events and bring in speakers that are experts in how do you write your medical school essay, what's the best way to conduct an interview. And so there's also those kind of learning opportunities, as well as great initiatives across the university. And so there's a lot of ways for students to get involved. Love that question. So thank you so much. So any other questions before we wrap up? Right. I'm not seeing anything else come in. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is wrap us up. If you have any questions or you're interested in scheduling a meeting with me, we can specifically talk about your interest in bioethics and medical humanities or your interest in the master's program. We can talk about fit. We can talk about your specific circumstance. Please email us, bioethics@case.edu. It's a great way for us to connect. We can set up a one-on-one meeting and have a great conversation about your interest in the program. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. If you're watching us live, thank you so much. If you're watching a recording, we're glad you joined in. So I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you again.